RSVP for a seat at the table. We're in Luke 14. If you want to go ahead and open up your Bibles there, the categories are seating arrangements and humility, guest list and reciprocation, RSVPs and regrets, and finally, no-shows and invitations. Let's pray together our prayer as we begin this time. Father, as we turn to the Bible, what we know not, teach us. What we have not, give us. What we are not, make us. For your Son's sake. Amen. So, we're going to be looking at the parable of the Great Banquet. Your passage is Luke 14, 12 through 24. However, I want to read 1 through 24 to kind of set the stage, and then we're going to talk about a little bit more than 14 through 24. But here it is, from Luke 14, beginning with verse 1. One Sabbath, when Jesus went in to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, he was being carefully watched. There in front of him was a man suffering from dropsy. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in the law, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? But they remained silent. So taking hold of the man, he healed him and sent him away. Then he asked them, if any of you has a son or an ox that falls into a well on the Sabbath day, will you not immediately pull him out? And again, they had nothing to say. When he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for a person more distinguished than you may have been invited. If so, the host who invited both of you will come to you and say, give this man your seat. Then, humiliated, you will have to take the least important seat. But when you are invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, friend, move up here to a better place. Then you will be honored in the presence of all your fellow guests. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. And then Jesus said to his host, when you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends or brothers or relatives or your rich neighbors, for if you do, they may invite you back, and you may well be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Verse 15. When one of those at the table heard this, he said to Jesus, blessed is the man who will eat at the feast in the kingdom of God. Jesus replied, a certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited to come, for everything is now ready. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, I have just bought a field and I must go and see it. Please excuse me. And another said, I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me. Still another said, I just got married, so I can't come. The servant came back and reported this to his master. Then the owner of the house became angry and ordered his servant, go out quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. The servant said, what you ordered has been done, but there is still room. Then the master told his servant, go out into the roads and the country lanes and make them come in, so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those men who were invited will get a taste of my banquet. So, first section I want us to look at is actually the first verse, and then verses 7 through 11. Okay? We're talking about seating and seating arrangements. So, I thought I would bring you up to speed on your etiquette, right? When I was a kid, my mother gave me an etiquette book this thick and said you have to learn everything in it. I was glad she did. Not at the time, but I was glad she did. So, if you're setting up a table, this is the way it should look. Okay? Now there's variations on this. This is not the only formal seating arrangement. But do you notice anything? Where do the VIPs sit?
Right.
Closest to the head of the table.
Closest to the head. Where's the head of the table? Who's there?
Well, you go in the part there, the husband and wife.
Husband and wife. But I said which is the head, not which is one of the heads. Where's the head of the table?
Should be the male host.
Should be the male host. It's not always, but yes. You know, in informal seating arrangements. A lot of times, the female host is the main host, and the husband says, "It's your show. Go for it." Okay. And the host has a lot of responsibilities. One of the things I used to love to do this. My mother-in-law, I loved her to death. I was blessed with the world's best mother-in-law, bar none. Bar none. Mama B was the best. I mean, always. But one of the things she was taught as a hostess is the hostess continues eating as long as anyone at the table is eating. Huh? Now, I don't eat like I used to. I can still put away the groceries. But it drove her nuts. Because I would keep eating, and I would look over at her plate, and she would be pushing food around on her plate. So, the hostess has a lot of responsibilities, right? Notice that the females and the males are separated. They're arranged in a certain way. And the VIP 2s are on the opposite end from the VIP 1s. Right? Why is this done?
Facilitate conversation and other things.
Facilitate conversation. Why else? It's never, you don't ever say, this is the top dog at the table. I want all of y'all to know that. This person here is the most important. They never say that, but why would you do that? Jesus even talks about it in here. Showing respect. Showing honor. Giving honor to someone to whom honor is due for whatever reason. Okay? There's a purpose behind it. That etiquette stuff, there was a purpose behind all of it. Purpose behind all of it. So, what is Jesus teaching? Oh, by the way, I want to remind you, when we look at parables, we have to be thinking what Jesus is teaching us about the kingdom. He's using earthly kingdom stories to teach about the heavenly kingdom. I haven't found a parable yet, and I don't think I will. I could be proved wrong. But I haven't found one of the parables that doesn't talk about the kingdom. And this one's the same way. Okay, so in those verse 1 and then verses 7 through 11, what is Jesus teaching us about the kingdom in this passage?
Specifically, it's kind of pointing at the Israelites, Jewish people in general, that they're the invited guests. God kind of set them aside years ago, said, "You're my special people," but yet they could never seem to grasp that and never act the way they should.
Okay. So, are you saying they were the ones that were clamoring for the best seat in the house?
Mm-hmm.
Or claiming the best seat in the house? Or recognizing that they were the best seat in the house? Yeah, exactly. You know, when you look at that, when someone invites you to a wedding feast, you not take a place of honor. I got to tell you, humility is you've known humble people. You've known truly humble people. people that had every right to be, and yet they never assumed. They were always so gracious. Wealthy people who were very gracious. People who had standing, who were very gracious to you. And very humble in the way that they approach life. But you've known people on the other end of the scale too, haven't you? Okay, so don't name names. You name names, I'm going to have to kick you out. Have you known Christians in both camps, the humble and the not? Have you? Yeah.
Well, even in Jesus' time, I mean, what were the disciples doing? Which one was going to be
The greatest. Which one's going to sit at your right hand?
And we have a generation. Well, we have more than just a generation, but of selfies and iPhones and I this and I that. It's a very different acceptance of self.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that it's I this and I that?
Very
It stands for
personal.
internet.
I know, but
But it doesn't stand for internet, does it?
Well, it's funny because no one's ever getting past the age of 2 or 3 anymore.
Yeah? Me.
That's right.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about it's a meology that we like to see in our churches. Not a theology, but a meology. Yeah. And humility is taking a back seat in a lot of ways. A lot of Christians think they know what's right and what's wrong. And so when some Christian steps out of line, they're real quick to criticize them for saying, oh, they're just wrong. They're just wrong and I know better. Well, be careful. Be careful. I am convinced that when we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. Sing party. When we all get to heaven, I'll guarantee there's going to be somebody there that you're shocked to see.
I think we'll be so in awe of God, we'll know.
Yeah, you're not going to complain about it. You're going to realize, oh wow.
He does all things.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be the attitude. So humility is what Jesus is saying. In order to get into the kingdom of heaven, one must be humble. Except you come as a little child. Yeah, that's another story. Except you come as a little child in humility, bringing nothing with you. Jesus taught this a lot. The greatest among you will be the least. The first shall be and the last shall be. Jesus taught this a lot, didn't he? Okay? So how does that play out in our earthly lives?
We should put others first because we know God's got our back.
And we are even instructed in the Bible to do that. To put others first.
Above yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Gotta move on. Chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. Okay? He's talking about guest list, and he's telling the host. I think it's interesting that he comes in, and the first thing that happens, it says that they were watching him real carefully. They had their eyes on him. Boy, they were watching him. And what's the first thing they do? It's a Sabbath, isn't it? This is a Pharisee's home on the Sabbath. And what's the first thing they do? They bring in a dude that has swelling. That's what dropsy is. It's like severe edema kind of situation. The guy that has dropsy. Jesus doesn't even bat an eye. He's looking around. He knows they're all watching. What does he do first? He says, so, should I heal somebody? He doesn't say I, but that's what he's saying. Should I heal somebody on the Sabbath? What do you think? Yeah. And they were silent. So he says, okay, y'all like talking? That's fine. How about this one? Suppose your ox falls in a ditch, or your son falls in a ditch, or a well, or whatever. Are you gonna on the Sabbath help him get out, or are you just gonna let him say, I'll see you tomorrow? What you gonna do? And how did they respond? They all remained silent.
But the cool thing was he didn't do that. He just healed him first.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then he threw that out.
Yeah.
So before they could start going, well, which one of y'all?
Yeah,
What do you
exactly. So then he goes to the host, and he gives him some instructions. Do you see what he tells him to do?
Or not.
What should he do?
Invite people that can't pay him back.
Invite people that can't pay him back. Who had this Pharisee invited?
It's free.
His friends, people that are going to watch Jesus, people that are going to trap Jesus, people that were on his side. What do you think? Huh? Were they all there? Yeah, he brought in a guy that had dropsy, but that was a prop. That was a stage prop. That wasn't a man. That was an object for his object lesson, right?
So it's neat that even though Jesus knows this is a trap and they're trying to get him and they're his enemies and all that, I'm coming.
Walk straight in there. And not only walk straight in there, but without saying anything hurtful. I mean, this is pretty powerfully charged when he says this about, when you hold a feast, why don't you invite some poor people in? Somebody can't pay you back. See, even that, the dude can't argue with that, can he? Otherwise, he's not seen as a righteous Pharisee, one who is to uphold the law, and the law says to take care of the poor folk.
Sounds like they had the first world problems we have today with GPS.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, GPS will tell you to do all sorts of things. I learned how to use a compass.
Yeah.
Still got lost, but anyway. GPS, we're going to go straight by the, it says it can't be wrong. Yep, keep on going right there. Yeah. Right off that cliff. What happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what Jesus is showing here, do not let the perfect be the enemy of good.
Okay.
Common sense.
Right.
Somebody falls in the well, I don't care what day or what's going on.
Yeah.
You're coming out.
Right. That's right. Okay, Pam and I were talking about this. Back in our day when we were kids, here's the way it works. You go over to somebody's house to eat, right? There's, maybe 4 or 5 couples there, right? And the kids are sent off to play and, give them a little snack or something, whatever. But these couples come over for this meal, knowing that in a week or two, all those same people are going to get together again at somebody else's house that's in the group. That's the way it works. And when I was talking to Pam about it, she reminded me, and this is so true. My mother said it, her mother said it, it's our turn. We need to, there wasn't a schedule. In other words, when they were all sitting there together, they didn't say, where are we going to get together next? No. No. Everybody went their separate ways, and whoever's turn it was, they knew that it was their point of reciprocation. But that's the way we do it. Isn't that the way we do it? We talk about what it means for, what it means for us. How does it play out in our earth? Don't we tend to associate with Christians that are like us?
Sure.
Why is that?
Comfort zone.
I mean, look around the room.
Got something in common?
Something in common, comfort zone.
Well, years ago, when I used to go to Independence Baptist, 30 years ago, we switched, our pastor switched, which we did a lot of stuff with that little Baptist missionary church right there.
Right.
Mostly African American. Anyway, it was neat because there were a lot of from clay and stuff. And we would switch praise nights or prayer nights, and then our pastors would switch on occasion.
Yeah.
And it was cool because ours was, I was one of the young people out of 5 of us, and the rest of them were all like 70 years old or above. But it was just
Right.
neat to watch the music differences, the hooting and hollering differences, the whatever, and those, and it was just fun to watch. We, because we all go to our churches where we're comfortable, but it's fun to shake it up.
The question still stands. Look around the room.
Birds of a feather.
We are all pretty much, we are all ages. I've often talked about how eclectic this group is. We are all ages. We are from all walks of life, all types of occupations and non-occupations. Steve, yeah, baby. No, we are from, but we are all pretty much the same. We are. And there ain't nobody in here that stinks. Well, Lee, Okay, how many of you were waiting to see who I was going to name? Corey was on the list. No, listen. Ain't nobody like that in here.
We can be like that if you need us to.
Yeah.
Well, no! But we can bring in people, can't we?
Yeah.
I'm talking to me. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to me. Okay? Believe me, I see people every time I go to Walmart, former students, all kinds of people, that I'm not even sure they remember talking to me when they walk away. You know what I'm saying? I know these people. You know these people. Where are they? Just something to think about. Let's go on. RSVPs and regrets. You know what an RSVP is? You know what the French is? Response. You get these, you get something that looks like this, right? And you have to check that you accept with pleasure or you decline with regrets.
Where's the one where you decline and you didn't regret it?
Well,
That's just wrong.
that's another.
Or accept.
So, okay.
Accept with
What happens in these verses 15 through 20? They go out and the people say, you see the invitation's already out there. But they never did respond because it didn't work that way in that day. Okay? The servant went out and said, we're gonna have a feast and we want you to come. And he'd go door to door and tell whoever, or he would make a public announcement and say, the dude that owns half of the city, well, he's having a big party and he wants everybody to come. And then that dude would go out and he would speak to the people individually when everything was ready to go. Said, hey, the party's on, salad's already in place. Y'all come on, we're gonna have a good time. What were the excuses that were given?
Bought a farmland, bought some oxen, got married.
Okay, take those one at a time.
Money.
Look at the land. What did he say?
I gotta go look at it.
Now wait a minute.
Look at it before he bought it?
Did he look at it before he bought it? And does he think it's changed? And how long does it take him to look at a piece of land? Huh?
It might be days journey away.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so he has to go over there and look at it. Okay.
He got on the internet and bought a piece
How
of
about-
West Texas.
How about the second excuse? Bought some oxen.
5.
5 oxen.
The yoke.
And what does he have to do? Try them out. Are you telling me that this businessman bought 5 oxen sight unseen? Is that what happened? Is that really what happened? It's hard to believe, isn't it? I'm sorry. That's just kind of hard to believe. What's the third excuse? Oh, well, so?
That's what I said.
Ball and chain, ball and chain.
Ball and chain. Oh, so what you're saying is his wife wouldn't let him?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
I guess.
Is that what you're accusing the women of the world for being bosses who won't let their husbands go and do things on their own?
Still enjoying it.
He was still enjoying his honeymoon.
Dad, why doesn't he bring his wife with her and go to the
That's
banquet?
my first thought.
His wife would know that he dances.
There you go.
They're filling the facility, see a free meal where it's at, you know? Come on.
Yeah. True. Excuse is the skin of a reason stuffed with a lie. That nasty sausage, isn't it? Yeah. Skin of a reason stuffed with a lie. One thing I will tell you, now, you know, you were thinking about the kingdom, right? We're talking about people rejecting the kingdom. Because that's really what Jesus is talking about here. Okay? I've heard it said by so many people, I don't even remember where I first heard it, but I believe it to be true. The 3 things that stand in the way, the 3 things that bring sin into our lives, the 3 things are power, money, and sex. Look at those 3 things. If you own land, you are powerful. Landowners ruled all that was. If you were able to buy 5 oxen without looking at them first, you were rich. The sex is implied with the marriage. There's also a legal thing there. Jewish law said that, you go back and you can read it. Jewish law said that when you got married, you had a year off from military duty. It's in the Bible.
Nobody told me that.
It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. Okay, you had a year off from military duty. So, you know, he may have been using that as his excuse. Well, it's within that first year, and so I'm not going to do anything. Okay? Well, going back to what John said, or no, what Brian said. I don't remember which one of you said, you know, it was Brian that said, what if you don't have any regrets? Well, the best way to avoid making excuses that are lies stuffed into the casing of a reason, the best way to do that is to speak the truth. Isn't that right? Okay. Ross had some new furniture that he had to put together. He asked Joey and Chandler to help him with it. Joey and Chandler were more than willing to help him with it, right? And so they decided to ask Phoebe about it.
Hey, Pete, you want to know?
Oh, I wish I could, but I don't want to.
Isn't that good? Really, that's what they were saying, wasn't it? I don't want to go to your party. I don't want to be a part of the kingdom that you're proclaiming. I don't want that. So I'm going to beg off. But I'm going to be polite about it. I'm not just going to tell you right to your face that I don't believe in you, Jesus. I'm just going to ignore it and hope that you go away. Well, we got one more little section We're going to skip those questions because you've already talked about them. And let's talk about no-shows and invitations. In verses 21 through 24, what happens?
The servant comes back and says, none of them will show up.
Yep. So then what?
Like, if the servant was a good servant, he said, I've already done some of that.
Yep. Did you notice who the first were that the man told him to go out and get?
The ones that Jesus said to invite.
The same ones that Jesus said that the dude should invite to his next banquet. Look at it. Look back up there. The poor, the lame, the people that
Cannot repay.
the people that can't repay. So, isn't it fabulous? Jesus goes to a party, and he's just giving some friendly advice. It's good advice, you know? When the table's set here at a wedding feast, don't go up there to the head, because, you know, then you might be demoted later and you feel foolish. No. Sit off to the side and wait. That's good advice. That's just good practical advice. That's just common sense, isn't it? That's just good practical advice. Then he says to the host, he tells him, you know, next time you might want to invite some other folks who can't repay you. And even that's good advice for somebody that wants to look pious. Look what I did for the poor. Look what I did for my favorite charity. He's just giving some good advice, isn't he? Right? He carries it on, he gets down to the end, and he goes back up to that previous theme and comes back with it right now and says, so what did this man in my story say now? He did exactly what I just told you to do. Talking to the Pharisee. He did exactly what I just told you to do. He went out and got those poor folk. But it wasn't enough. So then what did he do?
He drove them in off the streets. Compelled them.
Anybody, compel them to come in. Make them come
With the
in.
shotguns.
Yeah. No, not with shotguns.
Oh.
No. Yeah. John's got a little gleam in his eye right now. Right time for the wedding. Folks, Jesus is talking about the kingdom of God. This whole thing, this whole chapter, I mean, you know, everything we've read is talking about the kingdom of God. It's talking about who gets to go to enter the kingdom of God, who gets to go to the banquet feast. First off, who's invited? Everyone's invited. Everyone is invited. God so loved the world, not most of the world, but the world. Everyone is invited. Everyone is sent an invitation. Everyone has a chance to RSVP. Everyone, including the poor, the blind, the people who can't pay you back, the ne'er-do-wells, the people who are caught up in stuff that we would blush at. Everyone is invited. There's a lot of Christians, okay? There's a lot of so-called Christians who are going to be surprised one day when the door is shut right in their face. Because they thought they had it all together. I'm God's kind of guy. I mean, let's be honest. Ain't nobody better than me. You know? I'm God's kind of guy. And there's going to be a lot that ain't going to eat at the banquet, that are going to be shut out. So what should we be about? We should be doing what this servant was told to do. We need to get out there and compel folks to come in. You don't want to be eating alone, do you? That's an awkward dinner when you're the only dinner guest. You don't want to be the only one. You want to have people gathered around you who are so thrilled that you invited them to this incredible banquet. They are going to be thanking you, just like that song. Y'all remember that song, don't you? Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. You can be that person. You can compel them to come in. Not with guns, John. You can compel them to come in. Not by convincing them with your clever arguments, but by loving them. And when they say, why? You simply respond, because of Jesus. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Bob, and also, the Pharisee, or the one having the feast, or to begin with, or the dinner Jesus went to, Jesus was probably invited just for out of show, and sometimes we hold on to our Christianity out of show.
Yes.
And he wasn't.
Yes.
He was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we offer up Jesus. We say, looky here, I've got Jesus with me. Look at my cross. Right here. Look at my cross. Look at my bumper sticker. I got Jesus with me. Look at my Bible. Look at that Bible. That proves I got Jesus with me. No, we hold him up for show. We need to be about the business of bringing other folks in. Compelling them with his love. There's a song, his love compels me. That's all we need to do is just introduce him to his love. Let's pray. Father, we thank you that you did love us so much that you sent your Son to die for us so that we could have a seat at the table. And Father, we don't want to eat alone. I pray that you will right now bring to our mind's eye people we know who, as far as we know, don't know you as personal Savior. I pray for each one of these people sitting here and for myself that you'll put them in our minds right now. And Father, when we leave here, may we leave with a conviction to go and compel them to come to your table, to join in the feast, to know that you have set a table before us in the presence of our enemies. Help us to go with that in our hearts, with those people in our minds, and with your love and your grace. I pray in Jesus' name.